everybody, welcome back to my channel. Just popping on to do another quick video. This is going to be another sketch because I have to prep and pack for my bazaar tomorrow, or when you see this. I'm going to be using the Operation Right Home sketch again. I have all of their sketches and it was just easier to pull one of them, and they have so many great ones. So I'm going to be using sketch number 39, and I will have that in the link again to their website for their sketches. They have a lot of great sketches. Again, it's Operation Right Home, number 39. So also, just as a reminder, this month's host code for ordering, you can use this host code, and that'll help me in providing free product to my customers. So if you order, please go ahead and use this November host code. Alright, so I'm going to actually be doing a little bit of stamping this time, and I'm going to use the Leaves of Holly, just the stamp set, no dies. I'm going to be using Real Red and Garden Green ink, and so we'll set those aside for the moment. I'm going to use also my Memento Black for my sentiment. I'm going to use the sentiment from this set. It's going to say Joy and Peace. I've already got it lined up on a block, so it was just easier once I got a nice line lined up nice, just to leave it on the block. I'm going to make two cards with a little bit of a different variation. So I'm going to use this smaller leaf, this fill-in is two-step stamping, and I'm going to use the berries on one card along with the leaf. So what you're going to need for each card, I'm going to use, instead of a white background, I'm going to use a colored cardstock, and for this my samples are in green, but I decided to switch it up using red, just playing tonight. So this card base is 8.5, let me measure this really quick, 8.5 by 5.5 scored at 4 1/4. So this is gonna open up like that. Okay, so you need that for a card base. You're gonna need a trim quarter for the inside. You could probably write on that, but I usually stick trimmed quarter on the inside for writing. And this is 4 by 5 1/4. And then for each card, you're gonna need 3 pieces of white that measure 2 1/4 by 1.5 inches. And you're going to need these background pieces. So for these cards, I decided to go with Early Espresso at 2 3/4 by 4, and then I'm using the Painted Christmas from our catalog, and I'll have that in the description box below. And this is going to be at 3 1/4 by 4.5. Now it's double-sided, so one card's going to have this side, and we're going to flip it on the other card. Okay, so what we're going to do first is I'm just going to go ahead and do all my stamping. So I have both my card bases. One I'm going to leave plain, and the other one I'm going to put a pattern on. So I'll leave this one out so I can put the pattern on it. I'll need these and these. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and stamp my greeting, and I have it lined up, Joy and Peace, on the block here. And I'm going to do that in Memento ink. I'm going to set that right there in my grid lines. Go ahead and get this inked up. And center that the best I can. And just hold it for a few seconds just so that the ink gets into the paper. Okay, there's one, and then we're going to go ahead and do the second one. There's my greeting. Set that aside, clean that off. Then I can go ahead and put these back into the case. Sorry for the loudness here. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to get this one out and do my stamping with it. Now I'm going to use Garden Green for this. And to start with, I'm going to stamp on these again. I'm going to just pick up some Garden Green ink. I'm going to stamp off and then stamp on here. So it gives a pattern, but it's lighter. I'm going to do the same thing for the other one. Stamp off, stamp on. Okay. Now those ones are stamped. Then I'm going to go ahead and do my insides. And since my card's oriented this way, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to load this with ink, stamp it off, and I'm just going to stamp right there. And right there. So there's that one. And do the same thing for this one. Okay, we have our inside pieces stamped, and now we're going to do these. So two of these are going to be stamped full on with the leaf. So I'm going to go ahead and load this up. I'm not going to stamp off on these. And make that the full color, right about there. Okay, there's that one. And I'm going to do the same thing with this other one. Okay, now with these two, I'm going to do it a little bit different because I'm going to have berries on two of the white ones. And since I have this stamp on my block, I'm just going to go ahead and do all the stamping I want to do with this. So I'm just going to kind of stamp this full color towards the top. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. Okay. I'm done with that stamp. I'm not done with that color. Go ahead and clean that off. And then I'm going to grab our second step stamping. I'm going to grab the filler stamp, load that with ink, and I'm going to stamp off again. And the nice thing about these photopolymers, you can kind of see where you need to lay it, just to help fill in the color a little bit. Isn't that cool? I love that. You're going to do the same thing here. Stamp off. Okay. Those are finished, and we're going to come and do the same thing with these. This last one here. Okay, so we're all done with the green, and now we're going to go to our real red. Okay, so the same thing for the berries. These two are done. I'm going to move these aside. I'm these around. And I'm going to grab the solid image of the berries. Ink that up. I'm going to put that right about there. Just let it soak in. Do the same thing here. Okay, we're going to do the second step, but since I have this one out, I want to get some pattern on the card. So this piece is the largest piece, and it's going to cover a good portion. So the only thing we need to focus on is around the sides. And so this is tone on tone stamping. I'm going to flip this around here and clean this off because I got ink everywhere. That's nice and dry. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stamp off once because I don't want a large pattern, and I'm just gonna kind of go around the side. It'll be a subtle pattern. And I'm flipping it around so it kind of gets like a randomness to it. And this is just going to add a little bit of texture. That one going that way. Oops, I didn't stamp off on that one. That's all right. Okay. Actually, I kind of like that darker one. So I might fill some gaps in. So we have a good way to fix it if you didn't mean to is just add ink up and add some darker around as well with the light. One more right there. There we go. Clean that off. Now, the red ink does stain the stamps, but that's all right. You can still see through them. So I'm going to take this second stamp, and it's just going to stamp another layer on here that's gonna give it some dimension. So I'm gonna ink that up, and I'm gonna do it full strength. Line this up. There we go, and I'm gonna do the same thing for this one. I'm not going to do it to the background of the card. Okay. All right. We have finished all our stamping. I'm going to put this away before I get my fingers in it. Okay. Set those aside. I'm going to flip this over. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stick these on the inside so they're ready on both card bases. there's that one, and then we'll get this one in. And you can stamp a sentiment too. There are sentiments in this set that you could put in there. I'm going to just leave it blank. Or you could have these ready for when you know who you're going to give it to and what kind of sentiment you want to stamp the inside, and just leave it loose in there until you know whether you want it plain or a sentiment. So that way you can just pull it out, stamp it, and then glue it in. Okay, so the first one we're going to put together is this one. That is my background, and I'm going to use these colors here, these pieces. Let's see, do I want to do this side? I think because there's a bolder pattern there, I'm going to do this one with this pattern. Kind of center that on the card. Then you're going to take your early espresso. That's the color I'm using here for this top layer. And center that. And then I'm going to flip these the different direction. And I'm just going to spend a minute just kind of lining this up. I want this to overhang this patterned paper about 1/4 of an inch and kind of centered top and bottom. Then I'm going to line this up here. And this taking the time to do this is really good, because then you're going to see how much space you have in between here and about where you need to line it up, because you kind of want equal space as best you can. And making sure stuff's all straight. Okay, I think that's good. So I'm going to take this one off and just put some glue on the back here. And kind of line it up with what I have here. And having that about 1/4 of an inch on either side. Okay. Just going to kind of eyeball where that's going to go. So then I'm going to take this one, could put glue on it, and I found it easier to do it this way instead of the outer and then the inner, because of just getting everything straight. But you could do the 2 outside pieces first and then center the center piece. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and put glue on the back of this. And I don't need to put it all the way over because it goes down, so it's not going to really stick to those papers there. Didn't too bad for being in having the camera and not being able to get right over it. Alright, so there's our first Christmas card. Isn't that pretty? Very simple card with some light stamping. Alright, let's see what this one looks like put together. Center this one on here. And then put my early espresso down. Center that. If you need to make a bunch of cards, a card sketch is a really great way to do that, and then you can use up some paper. I definitely have some paper I need to use up. So I'm going to take this, oops, these are going to go on either side, and then we're going to have this for the center. So I think I'm going to go ahead and stick this down. Now, get this lined up. And then put some glue on the back here. Okay, and there's that beautiful card. Now I am going to do one more thing to it. I like a little glitter on my cards. So I have this Wink of Stella, and I'm just going to add it to the berries, just to add a little shimmer. You want to be careful not to go too crazy and paint over and over and over, because this will lift the paint or the ink. So you just want to get a little bit on there. And it just adds a little bit of shimmer to the card. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but it adds a little bit of a shimmer, and I think these cards turn out beautiful. Great cards to send for Christmas. Now I'll show you the other two samples that I've made. So this one was with the plain one, and this was using the, let's see, this is Boughs of Holly paper, and I used the back side, so I've got this pretty timber. So this is the paper pack I used. So instead of using this side, I flipped it over and used this beautiful side. And I also used this piece here, which also has the smaller poinsettias. So on here I used the back side of both of those papers. Still did the same stamping, but I did this in Old Olive, Peace and Joy. And I did the same thing on the inside. And then for this one, I flipped the paper around and used the small poinsettias, but still used this timber looking one, and I stamped the holly leaves in the background for that card. All right, so here's the 4 cards that I've made with the Operation Write Home sketch number 39. Thank you for joining me, and I will catch you on the next one.